Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Community Development and Regulatory Services agenda for today, October 13th. I've been joined by council members Warsami, Fry, Quincy, which is a quorum of the committee. Council members Kano and Reich are unavailable this afternoon. We have a relatively brief agenda. The first item will be the consent agenda, items 10 and 11. These are the business licenses recommended for approval by staff, as well as authorizing staff to continue the analysis of the housing improvement area project at the Wellington condominiums. Are there any questions on items 10 and 11? Seeing none, I'll move approval. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And any opposed? Those items are approved. Then we'll move to our public hearing agenda, starting with items 1 through 8. Ms. Kimball, perhaps you can just give a broad report, and we'll work with the clerk to have one public hearing on those items.
Chair Goodman, committee members, the next 8 agenda items are sales of vacant buildings through the Vacant Housing Recycling Program to Wilson Molina. I'm going to present briefly about our process that led to our recommendation for all 8 properties. Mr. Molina is here and will also provide a brief presentation about other properties he's rehabilitated, as well as his anticipated timeline for completing all 8 of the proposed properties within the 12-month timeframe required. In addition to the 8 vacant buildings recommended for sale at today's meeting, the City of Minneapolis previously sold 2207 16th Avenue South in Ward 6 and 3500 Clinton Avenue South in Ward 9 to Mr. Molina in May and June of 2015, respectively. Typically, through the Vacant Housing Recycling Program, we have sold 1 to 2 vacant buildings to a given purchaser within a year. Given the number of properties that are recommended for sale to Mr. Molina, we did conduct some additional analysis in order to determine whether Mr. Molina had the capacity to complete rehabilitation of 10 vacant properties within the timeframes required by our program. Some of our additional steps included doing a cash flow analysis of Mr. Molina's financial capacity. We had a meeting with him to discuss the rehab standards of our program and be sure that there was clarity about our expectations. And then we also did a site visit of both of the projects that he had previously acquired, as well as an additional project at 3644 Park Avenue South that was not acquired through the City of Minneapolis, but that was a condemned and vacant building that Mr. Molina acquired and is currently listed on the MLS. Based on that additional review, our staff concluded that Mr. Molina has the financial and professional capacity to rehabilitate all 8 of the homes. His intention is to sell the homes for owner occupancy by listing them on the MLS. Moving forward, I can just limit my comments to a summary of each of the 8 projects.
Do members of the committee need a summary of each of the 8 projects? All of the details are in the report, and there's really nothing different other than the location, the price of one, and the total square footage per house.
Correct.
I've read all the reports.
Okay.
It's the same boilerplate except for a couple of details.
I'm happy to not summarize them if there's no need to.
Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to say out loud, the reasoning for the $1 purchase price is the significant cost of rehabilitation and what the future owner is planning on doing to improve the properties.
Correct. The $1 purchase price is also what the appraised value of the property was at the time that we listed it.
Great, thank you.
Okay, is there any further information required from staff, since Mr. Molina is here and he can speak for himself, which I think is ideal? Seeing no further questions, I'll invite Mr. Molina up to come talk about these 8 properties, and then we're just wondering if you could just tell us what happened to the disposition. One is on MLS, where the other 2 sold for owner occupancy. Of the previous projects that you did that you bought from the city, have they both been sold already?
No, they're in the process of being renovated right now. They're about 75% completed.
Okay. Thank you for being here today.
Sure. This is the...
Why don't you please introduce yourself and give your name and your address for the record.
My name is Wilson Molina. I am a real estate investor, also a real estate broker.
What is your address?
I'm sorry?
Your address?
2637 Portland Avenue South. And I have met with CPET staff and also with Roxanne regarding these properties. And I have a small presentation that I'd like to...
Please do.
Sure. Well, this is the time frame of the 8 properties that we we're trying to acquire from CPAD, and we have specified about 12 months to get these 8 properties done. I've done over 30 properties, 22 of them were condemned from the city. We successfully have sold every property to owner occupants, no less than 30 days in the market. And we have a crew of 5 people. We have 5 crews, 5 people each crew that we do all the work. We do everything with licenses, permits, and everything that city requires. Some properties require to do asbestos abatement, which we take care of that before anybody goes on the property. And currently, last year we done 8 properties, 8 condemned properties, and we sold all of them. Right now we have 5 going.
Okay, perhaps someone, either Mr. Molina or Roxanne, can just show a before and after picture of some of his previous work, just so folks who haven't read the report have an opportunity to take a look at the quality of the work.
Sure, this is a before picture.
Okay, the other way. Yep, perfect.
This property is 3107 22nd Avenue South. It was gonna get demolished by the city of Minneapolis, and I took over this property and paid $32,000 for it. And this is the after picture. It was sold at $179,000 after it was renovated, and it took us 6 months to get this property done.
It's pretty impressive. I don't think they would recommend selling 8 properties to you if they don't think you could do it, but I think the pictures speak for themselves.
Okay.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, that should be. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Molina? Anyone? Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
In cooperation with the clerk, I'll open the public hearing on items 1 through 8, which include 2915 Girard Avenue North, 3310 Newton Avenue North, 3239 Fremont Avenue North, 3243 Fremont Avenue North, 3245 Fremont Avenue North, 3743 Fremont Avenue North, 3326 Oliver Avenue North, and 3431 Knox Avenue North, all to Wilson Molina at the, with the details listed in the report. Is there anyone here to speak to these issues? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move approval of all those 8 items, land sales.
Okay. Councilmember Quincy has moved approval. I think what I'll do is I'll also ask Ms. Kimball if you could make a note to come back to us in 6 months to let us know where we're at on this anticipated timeline, just so we have a sense of whether or not this is happening or not. And if it is, there might be more properties that he might want to be able to take on. I have no anticipation that this will be a problem, but I do want to know, we don't normally sell 8 properties to one person, so I want to get a sense of if we have someone new in the pipeline who could take on more, or whether or not we have to be more careful in the future. Okay, on Councilmember Quincy's motion to approve with the staff direction to report back in 6 months, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Thank you for being here today. I will then move on to the remaining public hearing item, which is item number 9. Mr. Curtis, welcome.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, what you have before you is a request to consent to the issuance of up to $14 million in tax-exempt refunding bonds by the Washington County HRA. This refunding applies to 3 separate nursing homes, one of which is in Minneapolis and has some revenue bonds from 2007 on it. The location is 3720 23rd Avenue South. In this case, it's more than just a straight refunding of the debt. The Washington HRA will issue bonds to refund the outstanding debt. The amount of the debt and bonds will be reduced, and then it will be given a second position for the major financing, which is going to be HUD mortgages, all of which is to reduce the cost of financing for the nursing home.
So were we unable to do the refinancing of this? Why is Washington County doing that?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, they have worked their deal, and 2 of the facilities are in Washington County. So the third one, it makes sense to have one issuer take second position. Could the city do it? Yes, but that was not approached to us.
Are there any questions for Mr. Curtis on item number 9? Seeing none, thank you for your report. We'll open up the public hearing on item number 9, which is approving and consenting to the issuance of bonds by Washington County HRA and refunding the City of Minneapolis Series 2007 Senior Care Revenue Bonds. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, I'll move approval of the staff recommendation. Further comments and questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. We'll then move on to item number 12. Ms. Crowther, welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Dolly Crowther with Residential Finance. I'm here today to proceed with approval of year 2016 low-income housing tax credits in the amount of $1,427,361 for 3 projects. Youth Link for $831,962, Marshall Flats Clare Housing for $246,941, and PRG Portfolio 1 in the amount of $348,580,458. Each year, the city of Minneapolis is given an opportunity to receive low-income housing tax credits for projects that will require income and rent restrictions. We received 7 proposals this year with a total of request of $6.1 million. Do understand that when I say 1.4 million, it's times 10, so that's $14 million to share among these 3 different projects. We've done a QAP. We made some changes to the QAP this year, and those changes were noted when we did the procedural manual in May. This year, we're here to approve these tax credits and proceed with closing. One of the projects, Clare Marshall Flats, received tax credits last year, so they are here this year to close out the project. Youth Link was ranked number 1, so they will receive all of their tax credits. The PRG portfolio ranked the same as the charity housing project, and the city decided that we would proceed with PRG 1 because that project has been to us before. It is in dire straits, and it's in the ISG. The ISG is Interagency Stabilization Group. It's a group of lenders who meet to look at projects that are in serious trouble for preservation or rehab. So this project came to us before, and this project is very significant to the lenders. So now PRG is only going to get a portion of their tax credits, and we're hoping that the MHFA takes them out, or they'll come back to us in the next round to receive the rest of their funding. Project data, the worksheets are attached. Again, these are estimates and these can change. In the future, we've gotten a few extra tax credits from the state at the end of the year, but we don't think we'll be receiving them this year. But we will proceed with the closings probably in a year for most of these. Do understand that tax credits is equity to a project and it's considered oxygen. We have few tax credits, but everybody wants them and few get them. So this is really a reward for our developers, and they're really happy to receive these tax credits. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Ms. Crowther? I just was wondering if Ms. Brennan had, not that we're not tracking this Youth Link thing on an hourly basis, but is there any update on any other funding sources or any other? No? No? Okay. We're very passionate about this Youth Link project and,
Yes.
and very anxious to get it closed this year. So
Right.
we're working very hard, all sorts of people on it. Other questions for staff? Seeing none? Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
I'm going to move approval of the staff recommendation. I'll note that the city has made it a priority to fund projects for homeless youth in our QAP this year, and that shows in the ranking system. But there are many more steps for this project to succeed, and we're vigilantly working to try to push this project over the finish line as quickly as possible. When you have hundreds of homeless youth in the community and you don't have anywhere for them to live, it is a pressing issue that we take very, very seriously. I also want to note the House of Charity is in my ward and was not able to be funded. I think it's a really good project that has a lot of neighborhood support, and I feel very bad about that. And I'll note Great River Landing seems to be a project also that is really kind of pushing us forward on our equity agenda, and it's very unfortunate that it is in a very competitive pool and isn't even close this time around. So hopefully these projects will see the finish line at some point. But when our top projects aren't there yet, they're all top projects, but I would say just for me, and I think for Councilmember Quincy, we're very, very interested in making sure the Youth Link project moves forward as quickly as possible. It's very unfortunate that the subscription the amount of money is so low and the number of people that want the resources so high. So on the motion to accept the staff recommendation, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll then move on to our final item. Mr. Carroll, welcome. This is not our first rodeo on this, but I always like to have a little discussion, presentation really, more than anything else. And we appreciate your kind of analysis about where we're at historically, more applications, less applications, loss of funding sources, things that might be different.
All right. I am Kevin Carroll from the Business Development Division of CPED. You're right, I'm here every 6 months or so, darkening your door with another report on brownfield grant rounds. There are 2 rounds per year. This report relates to the fall round, the applications for which are due on November 2nd. We solicited pre-applications from those projects that were interested in seeking that type of funding a couple months back. We always subject them to a fairly high level of staff review, in part because the grantors very much prefer to award money to projects that are actually going somewhere. So we got a fairly rigorous grant assessment worksheet process. These are all projects, and there are 15 of them. These are all projects that we believe at a staff level have a reasonably high likelihood of moving forward and being successful. We've checked with the planners on all of these. In every case, they either have their required land use approvals or the planners believe that they're likely to get them. In almost all cases, we have strong neighborhood support, in many cases evidenced by letters of support. In those cases where we don't actually have letters of support yet, the developers have, in almost all cases, at least initiated discussions with the neighborhood groups and have gotten preliminary favorable reviews. The only exception to that might be the 43rd and Upton project. That's been sort of plagued for years by neighborhood opposition of various kinds. My understanding is that when the most recent set of land use approvals were granted, that was appealed, and I think that appeal was resolved last Friday. So it appears as if that project is ready to move forward. We do have an interesting mix of projects this time, including 2 that you just mentioned moments ago, Great River Landing and the Youth Link project, both of which are seeking and need funding to investigate or clean up contamination. We also have some large commercial projects. It's been a number of rounds since we've had really big commercial projects, but in this round we have the Krauss-Anderson block, the T3 project, and Target Field Station. In most cases, these are projects of $50 to $150 million in size in terms of construction costs and development value. So we believe that these are all worthy of your support, and the other staff members with whom we've discussed these feel the same way. We always talk about them and clear them with CPED management and the sector teams who have a better understanding of what's happening in those geographic regions. So unless you have questions, I'm suggesting that you again support this list, in part because all of the grantors can award grant money only in cases where they've got a city council resolution of support. They want to make certain that the city council is in support of all of the projects that they're giving consideration to awarding grant funding to.
Are there any questions for Mr. Carroll on this item? I have just a couple of comments. I thought that the comments from Beth Elliott were really great. That was new in the report, just to have line by line the planning stuff talk about where we're at on entitlements. So we had a good sense of what was moving forward in that. I thought that was really helpful. I just want to reiterate that nothing in this approval would suggest the city is offering a match for any of the grant requirements that require a match. And then lastly, I was very happy to see the pilot program in the Basta Creek Valley, the city's project where we own 3 parcels of potentially contaminated land that might move that forward in a teeny tiny way. And that seems to be the only proposal of its kind for this kind of unique round of funding. So I noticed those couple of things, and I think the recommendation is very strong and appreciate the report.
The only clarification I would add, you're right about the grant matching requirements for all except the one project that you mentioned. The pilot program does have a matching requirement, but we do have some city funds that have been allocated to that. And in addition, the project coordinator, Beth Grossen, has been meeting with Hennepin County to see if they have grant funds that can be used to help provide us with funding to satisfy Met Council's match requirements. So I think we'll make that work.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. It's our property, meaning
Right.
the public's property. So the public match is okay with me.
Yep.
The public matching, the private match is not. Are there further comments or questions on item number 13? Seeing none, I'll move approval. On the motion to approve, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
What about you two?
Aye.
Just double checking. Keep everyone on their toes here. Thank you for your report, Mr. Carroll. Seeing no further business before us, we are adjourned.